So if you're working as a health, fitness, or a wellness professional, helping clients improve bile flow can be a step that brings some of the biggest results that you're going to create with your clients. There's a wide variety of health issues that come about from bile becoming too thick and sticky to flow correctly, and it's really common. The way that we eat today in this country creates a lot of trouble for bile flow, and your ability to help clients improve that can be a really big deal. So it was over on our consumer channel that Sharon asked, what's the best diet that we should be on to improve bile flow? So let's jump into this one.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So the first thing to understand when we're going to try to help clients adjust their diet in a way to help them improve bile flow, the first thing that we need to look at is the fact that moving towards a more real food diet can be one of the most powerful steps you can take with a client if that client is just consuming a bunch of junk. If they're just eating all this processed junk and they're not eating the right amount of carbs for their specific unique body chemistry, moving that and adjusting those things can be more powerful than just about anything that you're going to do. But Sharon's question here, and keep in mind that I don't know Sharon, I don't know her situation, so I'm not giving her specific advice here, is that we need to understand that this is a bit of a flawed request, and you're going to understand why this can be a problem if you're just going to take your client and say, hey, let's just adjust your diet to improve bile flow. And the reason this can be a problem is if you've seen our video on helping clients avoid poor bile flow and gallbladder sludge, then you understand that there's a wide variety of issues that can create this bile thickening up and becoming too thick and sticky to flow correctly. So if the underlying cause of that can really be varied from client to client, then how is one diet going to fix that for everybody? It's never going to happen. So you need to understand as a health professional that we all process foods differently, so there's never going to be a diet that's right for everybody, especially when we're looking to improve a specific situation like bile flow. Now, there are imbalances and things like that in the body that can occur where if someone adjusts their diet to a specific way, they have a great chance of improving that specific imbalance. But when we're looking at digestive malfunctions like poor bile flow, we need to understand that how is adjusting the diet to improve this issue going to work if the person can't break that food down and get the nutrients out of that food? It's the nutrients in that food that help improve specific health issues, not just that they changed what they were eating. So in order to get the benefit from a food, a person has to be able to break it down. And if bile is not flowing correctly, the whole digestive process is not working optimally. And their client is not going to be able to really break that food down into elemental nutrients and get all the nutrients out of that food. So when we look at some of these things, you're going to understand that telling a client, oh, you need to eat all this real food to fix this problem, you're going to see that it could really make some things worse. And I know that sounds ridiculous, like, oh, your client's eating all these toaster pastries and all this junk and everything's out of a vending machine. And if you have them switch to eating real food, like, steak and broccoli or something like that, that they're going to feel worse. And they're going to be like, well, that guy's an idiot. I'm not going to listen to them anymore. So we want to look into breaking down what we can really do when we're trying to improve bile flow. Now, here's what we really can do with diet with our clients is we can help improve bile flow as long as bile is moving okay. So if bile is really backed up and it's really sludged and it's not moving, you're going to see that adjusting the diet is just going to create problems for them. So when we're looking at using a diet to improve bile flow, we want to look at the things that are going to trigger cholecystokinin into action. So cholecystokinin kind of tells the body, hey, it's time to drop bile down from the gallbladder. So one of the things that triggers that to happen is consuming dietary fats. When dietary fats come down into the duodenum, that tells this cholecystokinin to go into action, and then the cholecystokinin tells the gallbladder to drop that bile down because bile is used to help us emulsify or break down those dietary fats. So that can be one way to eat that helps us improve our bile flow. because the biggest thing with bile flow is that we don't want that bile just sitting in the gallbladder for too long, because the gallbladder's job is to store that bile, but also to concentrate the bile. So by concentrating the bile, a smaller amount can be more effective. So we want that flowing through there. Otherwise, it's going to stay in the gallbladder and continue to concentrate until it concentrates into sludge or even stones. So if a client is using a low-fat diet, that's a real problem. Now the gallbladder is not being called on as often, and so that gallbladder is going to hold the bile there longer, continue to concentrate the bile until it is not really going to be flowing correctly because it has become too thick and sticky. Like if you concentrate gravy on the stove, you really are concentrating it down, removing all that moisture, and then it gets thicker and thicker. That's what's happening with the bile as well. So if a client's bile is moving kind of okay, but there's a lot of room for improvement, if they were to increase these dietary fats like we're talking about, then that would call on that bile more often, keep it flowing more often, which could help thin it out and allow it to actually flow better. And they could really improve their bile flow by just increasing their dietary fats. And I'm talking about good dietary fats. I'm not talking about seed oils and all these toxic processed fats that a lot of people consume today. We want to talk about saturated fats, real fats from real foods. Olive oil can be okay too, but we just don't want clients consuming a lot of seed oils thinking that they're increasing their dietary fat. Now, if a client is to increase their dietary fat, but bile is really backed up and it's not flowing well enough for them to be able to process this increased amount of dietary fats, well, now you're going to cause a real problem because all these fats are coming in that can't be emulsified or broken down because there's not enough bile to do that. So now you have all of these undigested fats that can become toxic and rancid, and now you just gave the body a burden. So not only are they going to feel lousy, but they could really get magnified symptoms of like nausea, bloating, skin issues where the body's trying to push out all of these undigested fats through the skin because the body doesn't know what to do with them. And then that clogs the pores and they get all these rashes or breakouts and stuff like that. Or the body might even store some of these undigested fats in fat cells. And now their pants expanded and they don't fit and they really don't like you very much. So we really don't like to go this route because, yes, the movement of that bile being called on by more dietary fats can help thin it over time. But if a client really has like cholestasis issues where bile is really not flowing well, which is really common, then it's just going to create all of these problems. So that's why the route that we go is we help clients fix digestive malfunctions before we try to adjust their diet in any way. If we're telling these clients to eat more real food and get more dietary fats and get more protein if you're not getting enough protein, and they try to do that when their bile is not flowing correctly or maybe they don't have enough stomach acid, they're going to feel really lousy and they're going to think you're an idiot. And they're going to be like, why did you want to make me feel worse? I feel so much worse. So that brings us to another aspect of the diet that really can trigger this cholecystokinin to trigger bile to flow a little bit more often, and that is protein intake. So if a client is not consuming enough protein, increasing protein can really help because remember, dietary fats trigger cholecystokinin, but so does stomach acid and so does amino acids. Amino acids are really important to the body, but we access amino acids by breaking down protein. The other thing that triggers cholecystokinin is stomach acid leaving the stomach and going into that duodenum as well. So dietary fats going into the duodenum, stomach acid, or amino acids going into the duodenum all trigger this cholecystokinin to tell the gallbladder to squirt bile down to help neutralize the acids that just came in. It also triggers the pancreas to squirt bicarb to help neutralize those acids and digestive enzymes to help us really break down the foods correctly so that we can get all the nutrients out of those foods. So protein can be like a double whammy. The problem is a lot of your clients are not going to be making enough stomach acid to break that protein down correctly. It's very common for someone not to be making enough stomach acid for a wide variety of reasons. So if you tell them to increase protein and they can't digest protein, that protein will sit there like a rock in their stomach for the next 6 hours and they're going to feel really lousy. But if they can break down protein, now the stomach is going to make more acid to help break down that protein. So more acid is going to go into that duodenum to trigger the cholecystokinin. Plus, you just broke that protein down into amino acids, and as amino acids come in, it's like a double whammy that's really good news for triggering the gallbladder to flow a little bit better. So you can see how important it is to help clients fix these digestive malfunctions before you go changing their diet. So if you don't know how to do that, chapters 3 and 4 of my book, Health Pro Results, kind of walk you through helping clients figure out which aspects of digestion are not working correctly and what steps they can take to improve those. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'll put a link in the description below so you can get that whole book totally for free. And you can just jump to chapters 3 and 4 to help you figure out how to do that. And if you're a consumer that just happened upon this video because you like the topic, we'll put a link for my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, and chapters 3 and 4 of that book walk through those same topics, and you can get that for free as well. That book is just better for consumers, where the Health Pro Results book is really written for health professionals. So I'll put links to both of those free resources so you can understand how to do that, because that's going to be a really big part of making sure that this happens correctly. So when we're just looking at foods that can help thin out that bile so that it can flow better, beet greens is one that really seems to work the best. But for your clients to see results just eating beet greens, they would have to eat as much as a horse. They're not going to do that. So we cheat and we use a supplement called Beet Flow from Empirical Labs. We're not the manufacturer. This is not a commercial for that. That's just what we use with our clients. And that contains a lot of concentrated beet greens juice, so they don't have to eat so many beet greens to get the effects that will really thin out that bile and help it to flow. Now, choline can also be used to thin out the bile, and that can be beneficial as well. But a lot of your clients can't use choline if it's not right for their body chemistry. It'll create oxygen utilization issues, and they'll just be wiped out, and they'll feel horrible. So we'll put a link in the description below this video for our video on which clients should not use choline, so you can understand that and see who could really benefit and who might need to steer clear of the choline. Now, when we're looking at diets trying to improve bile flow, it's really more about avoiding the wrong things. So if your clients are eating a lot of grains, there's a lot of components of grains that have the ability to thicken up that bile so that it doesn't flow correctly. Some of them can actually block cholecystokinin from signaling the gallbladder, and that can allow that to just thicken up as it continues to concentrate there. So removing grains can really be a really important step. And making sure that your clients are not using fasting if they're having bile flow issues. Remember, if somebody's fasting, they're not bringing anything in that's going to trigger cholecystokinin. So the bile is just going to stay in the gallbladder and continue to concentrate and become thicker and thicker. So we're fans of intermittent fasting. We use intermittent fasting with our clients when it's appropriate. I use it myself sometimes, but intermittent fasting is absolutely not right for everybody, and it's truly not right for someone who has bile issues, because they're just going to magnify that problem. So when you're looking at the optimal diet to really benefit bile flow, in most cases, there's going to be enough dietary fat. I don't feel like a client has to do like a ketogenic diet where it's a very high fat diet, but there needs to be enough fat in that diet. We want to make sure that a person is getting enough protein and that they can break that down correctly. We want to make sure they're not consuming grains. That can be a really big part of it. And that they're not fasting if they're really not set up to do that. So those are things that are great to help bile flow if it's moving, but just remember, try not to make clients that are really having bile flow issues just adjust their diet to fix that problem, because they're going to be miserable. It's going to take too long. They're not going to be able to sustain that, because they're going to create a lot of problems along the way that are going to be more problematic than the benefit they're trying to create. So we just cheat. We use supplements to make it happen faster. And then once bile is moving, they could keep things going with better dietary choices by making sure that cholecystokinin is being called on correctly. So I hope that helps. If you want to understand steps you can take with clients to help them thin out that bile faster and get it moving, you can jump over right now and check out our video on 5 ways to help clients improve bile flow. I can't wait to hear about your results.